Cool. So let me know if you can see my slides. And I'm going to ask Carolina for a little support as well. If you see someone, because I'm doing full screen, if you see someone with their hands up or if I'm missing someone trying to get my attention, just chime in and let me know so I'm not
I'll let
losing
you
the
know.
plot. Nice. Cool. Okay. So we had our first conversation with John and Estella, and we're saying, okay, what can we start with? And John was bringing to me the idea of how to transition from, the information that we're giving people and having inspiring conversations and, taking action. The kind of, we've formulated it in the sales script, sort of this, intro, discovery, then comes the information or the pitch, and then the, asking for what you want, the close. And, I think we have that in our mind, but I'm not sure how really as a system and steps that it's been formulated in the past. And that's on us as well. Like we have a sales script, we sort of use it, and we sort of kind of go off the cuff or we wing it a little bit. But I think as we move forward in this 2019, of course, we want everyone to bring their flavor to their conversation, to bring their unique heart and personality. But really, at the end of the day, sales is a process. If you follow these steps and you manage your own kind of emotions that are coming up in each of these steps, and you're confident and you hold a sort of centered energy, you will close more sales. We can get a higher win probability if you follow these steps and, we just master these, how to move from the steps and handle each, important stage. And I think I'll speak for myself. In the past, I've actually been a little resistant to steps and scripts and this and that, just because I'm like, well, I can do it better. And that's a big ego thing. It's like we always think we can do it better. But the reason we have steps is because they work. And if I was finding in my conversation by the end of it, if I followed these steps, everything just flowed better and I got more deals. So that's something that we just want to kind of look at together. I'll just reach out just a little bit here. Who's ever kind of not followed steps in a conversation, kind of just skipped around, was winging it, and it did not go that well? Carolina, do you want to just share a little bit like, oh, I can do this, and then it just didn't go so well? Or what's your experience when you're not following steps?
Well, I didn't hear the end of your thing that it did not go well, but I definitely, no, I definitely had those for sure too. Going off on tangents and not focusing on the main priority and sharing the kind of, intention of why the call happened or why the conversation, like I was in sales before, like in physical kind of going to restaurants and outlets of a product, and just going a little bit on the tangent, I would say, and drifting off, and then it's never wasted time, but it just goes into okay, now we were talking half an hour and actually the person needs to go, and I just didn't kind of like sell it or like seal the deal or anything, and then like it's learning process, I would say.
Perfect. And that's exactly that. It's great to make connections with people, and that's part of the the discovery and the building rapport stages, which is so important. But if we spend all our time there, but we don't get to where we're actually bridging our solution to their problem, then they're not going to be comfortable making a decision to move forward with us in what we're offering. So thank you for sharing that. Honestly, I've done it too. I've gotten so involved in conversations from a personal level that I forgot to move along the steps. Now, does anyone have an example of like where you just followed the steps perfectly and it was one of those just sweet deals where you introed it, you were using the powerful language, you were confident, you believed in what we were doing, you followed each step, and you got a sale on the first call? Does anyone have examples of that they'd like to share? I see Sarah's just jumped on as well. Now that I've scrolled my video, welcome to the call, Sarah. Do you have any examples? Why don't we just jump in with you of where you followed the steps and it was just one of those beautiful calls that flowed so well.
Yeah, kind of. And then by the end of the call, I'm like, oh wow, that worked. But yeah, as I'm going through the steps, then I find, I have to keep up with myself, because I kind of don't ever believe that it's gonna happen. I think so. Like as I get to the next step, I'm like, oh, okay, what do I do now? Oh yeah, okay, now I ask for the money, and oh, they're saying yes. Oh, okay. So yeah, I've had both, where it's worked and where it hasn't worked, where it's felt super smooth and super easy, and then other times where it's like it just feels really false. But yeah, the ones that have flowed really nicely are super cool to get.
Awesome. So only reason why I say that is we have examples, living examples of times when we follow steps and it's worked, and when we just try to wing it and it hasn't worked so well. And really, as they introduce this training, the big goal for all of this, regardless of the topic, regardless of the kind of topic that week, my goal is for everyone to really become and embody what I think transformational sales is all about, which is, heart-centered sales, and all of you are becoming, ultra high performing salespeople. And it's important that the heart-centeredness is there as well, because salespeople have that reputation of, crazy drive and big egos and all about results. And I believe that's part of the equation. We want to have drive. We want to have motivation. We want to have all of these things that make an amazing salesperson, but we want to do it from the heart. So is everyone up for that? Becoming an ultra high performing? Who wants to make more money than they made last year? Yeah, I know I do. So this is the journey towards that. Ultra high performers consistently close more deals than everybody else. And that's what we want each of you to become. And I don't think John and Estella would be investing in this training if they didn't believe in you, that you all have the potential to be that. And I think we've all embodied that to some extent at some points, but now let's do that consistently. And that's the big kind of goal for everybody, is how do I consistently sell from the heart and get the kind of conversions I can get excited about, that we can all get excited about. And some of this stuff is gonna, just this slide, it seems obvious, right? What is selling? And sometimes the word, we have these kind of emotional reactions to selling. Ooh, we have to sell things. But ultimately, selling is about influencing. We're influencing people to make transformational changes, right? Like there's a status quo, there's gravity to that status quo. And based on their interactions with us, based on their conversations with us, we are influencing them through powerful questions to get outside their comfort zone and to make a change, to go to a retreat, to go to a fast, to go to a business workshop, to go to some kind of amazing festival in the Pyrenees Mountains or something. All of that is the ability to influence a decision, right? To step out of what's normal, what's comfortable, what's status quo, and to do something amazing. And a lot of that starts with us. So part of these training that's coming up is really going to be some self-reflection. We want to look at what, sales specific emotional intelligence, right? Am I self-controlled? Am I managing my emotions? Am I self-driven? Am I engaging in self-reflection? All of this is about us. And, the common denominator for all of your conversations is you. And, I've known in my life that if I bring a bunch of disruptive emotions to the phone call, that can throw off the whole deal. Like, does anyone have an example? Maybe we'll hear from Jan, because she's turned off her computer. So I just make sure turned off her video. I'll make sure she's not sleeping. Jan, have you ever?
I am still here.
Okay, Just checking. You know, the kids that are hiding behind the books at class, and then you turn the book down, and then they're sleeping behind the book.
No, I'm perfectly present.
I love that word. That's a nice alliteration. So, Jan, can you give an
Yes,
example where you have brought some less than positive emotions, maybe some disruptive emotions to a sales conversation or to any interaction, and you really felt it derailed the outcome? Do you have any examples of that?
None that I can actually bring to mind immediately. I'm just trying to think of, you know, because when I sell directly for my own work. And that's when I usually am in a sales mode, because often I will get a call to, you know, for someone who wants to book an appointment, and I have to be present to them to actually make the sale for myself, because I'm actually selling my own service. And it's how I couch those, what I bring to, what I can bring to them, and then how I can then tell them that they're going to pay a premium for me because I'm the best in the business. So
awesome. So you
know,
have a strong belief, and people feel that, the weight of that belief, which is good.
Yeah,
so that
I have to be able to say that these are my credentials, and this is why you're paying what you're paying.
Perfect. And so this is an example from Jan of where she has managed any disruptive emotions very well. So she's utilized our ability to control our emotions and, you know, harness that strong power of belief in herself and her services and the outcome she gets. So that would be a great example of, you know, looking at, is fear coming up? Is insecurity coming up? Is any feelings of lack coming up? Is, you know, when I'm about to, you know, make a sale, am I bringing any of my stuff into the conversation? Am I projecting it all? And this is where we do some self-reflection, and we look at, you know, in these conversations, this could come up. And just to be aware of it, you know, practicing self-awareness. I know when potentially the conversation goes towards money, I have some blocks around money, and I have to just be aware that when that comes up, that I don't want to bring any emotions that I have around money to the table. I want to, you know, control and regulate and manage that, just so that I, you know, if, you know, I might not be able to afford what we're selling, but I don't want to bring that to the conversation. So again, this is kind of some of the bigger frames we'll be dealing with as we proceed. And this is just something that I think is going to be helpful as a, you know, a rule for life, and a rule for anyone that you're influencing, right? Is, you know, we have to learn how to speak the language and use the language that the person you're speaking to is using. And you have to discover why they might buy a retreat, or they might buy a program that you're selling, or, you know, a package deal. Because you come with all these reasons, but they have their own reasons. So part of transitioning from all these sales stages is in discovery, and is, as, you know, finding out what their reasons are, you know. And luckily in this situation with our team, we have a lot of information before the call. So it's making sure we utilize that. Does that make sense? Does anyone have any questions about that before we move to the next slide? Makes sense. Okay, cool. Now, here's kind of a bigger, we're going to focus on the sales process today, but I just want you to zoom out and take kind of like a big picture, bird's eye view of what's going on in the entire sales process. So we have our team. We're going to, you know, have a sales process that we follow. There's steps, there's some linearness to them. You know, the organization Inspiral helps formulate these steps. We try to make them simple. They make sense. They're not overly complicated unnecessarily. And then the person, you have a phone call with, Mrs. Smith from Australia, about one of our retreats or about one of our festivals or about one of our experiences. She has her own buying process that she goes through, right? So she's most likely doing research. She's most likely, looking at all the alternatives, and, she has a process herself, and it's unique, and it's probably shaped, if it's a company, it's shaped by strategy. Okay, we only buy things that, improve our bottom line, or I only go on retreats that have proven testimonials and things that have shown to be super effective. Great. Then we go into where those kind of meet. This is where the human interaction happens, right? So, the decision process is where the influence really happens. And I know that Linda has really excelled in influencing people's decisions through her ability to connect with the emotions, with the person. So I'll get Linda, if she's not on the bus or she's not moving or outside on a platform now. Can you just share, and really briefly, a memory you have of someone you've connected with really deeply, really on a personal level, and they bought from you?
Can you hear me?
Yes, you're live.
Yeah, I'm off the train. I'm on the platform. You're making a spit. Yeah, I'll go to a recent one actually, who I actually met the guy at the One Day Gathering, who he walked over to me because Tyler said you have to be with somebody, find someone with the same hair as you. And it was straggly, his hair, but I said, tie it back and it'll work, so he tied it back. And he said some things during the day anyway, and I kind of moved away. I thought I just want to stay present to everything that's happening here, not get involved with somebody. But he was on my list when I called him. It was just so deep and so beautiful. And he bought the program on the spot. And a bundle, it was a bundle. It's the Hilda Self Express Online and the Academy. And wouldn't even just pay 500, paid 680 on the spot to make it an even number. And he was to pay his balance the other day, but he's loaned his sister money. He's paid some yesterday and will complete it in a couple of weeks. But yeah, it was just such a effortless, grace-filled. I also had it with another woman who was at the event and on stage. So it's a bit of an advantage there. And she bought the bundle and is going in March. It just all happened quick and effortless with both of them.
Amazing.
But there are others, last year too.
Oh yeah, no, of course.
You had, but these are two very recent, yeah.
Right, and that's why I chose you as someone to share, because I know that a lot of your deals are based on the emotional connections you make. And it's a really, maybe without even knowing it, it's such an important part to sales. It's like understanding that people buy for their reasons, like we said. Right, but a lot of their reasons are based on irrational, emotional decisions, right? Yeah. We could show people the most logical way that they're going to transform their lives through our products and service, through our retreats or whatever. But if they don't like you, if they don't trust you, if they don't have a good connection, if they don't think you care, they won't buy from you. It's people buy with their emotions and they justify with their logic later. It's just how decisions work. It's how motivation works. We decide with our hearts, and then later we, oh yeah, but that was a good decision, right? Like we justify it later. And I think that's why Linda's had consistent success on these campaigns, is her ability to consistently connect with people and their emotions, and it's not, there's a bit more to it than that, and there's still ways that we can all improve on that. But, ultimately, this is our massive opportunity, this decision process column, right? We can fine tune our sales process. We can ask really powerful questions on how the people how they buy, what's their buying process. But throughout every stage of the sales, people are going to be either consciously or unconsciously saying, do I like this person? Am I feeling an emotional connection? you know, am I vibing with this person at all? And you are going to be able to influence those people with your interactions so much better just by understanding that people are not rational. We're not rational human beings. Like, we want to do business with people we like, you know, like that's part of the reason why I'm here today, you know, is like, I like all of you. I like all of you people. Like, of course, like I want to develop some sense of mastery in what I'm doing, but like, we want to do business with people we like.
Yeah.
And like, that's so important. Like, maybe let's see who's someone we haven't heard from.
Can I just share something that happened last night, just yesterday? Sorry.
Yes.
Just
yes.
to add to it, it was something I was asked to do for the journey, and it was somebody that had come to buy something but hadn't, an event which is on now in Auckland. And my call was like, oh, hi, I've been asked to contact you because you seem to be interested. You went to, but then you didn't. And she was just, oh, well, it's summer, it's this and that and this and that. And just in a short time, it was like, bang. And she's actually at the event today, but she sent me a text last night thanking me. She said, your call was gold. And I'll be there tomorrow diving into the JI, you know. She just needed that somebody to connect with her. It didn't, not that it was just me, but, you know, that to just take her that into that, what she wanted to do. She wanted to do it anyway. That's all I want to say, yeah, but just that to connect with her on that level. Yeah.
And I think that touches on, and I don't want to go too much deeper than that, but and we're going to talk about that in future, is that they're answering 5 of the most important questions. And one of them is are they listening to me? Because that's a massive thing, is giving people your attention and giving people your time. There's a reciprocity happening. But for yourself, Kristen, can you recall a time when you bought something specifically because of the emotions involved, because you like the person, because you had a great experience with the person? I think you may be muted. Hold on. There we go.
Oh, I am. Sorry, I am. I'm
Now,
sure I have. I'm trying to think of, man, I gotta like think about that one. I can't think of an example, but I know that I have.
Okay. So in yourself, a part of your deciding process is based on your feelings with people, though, your emotions that you get.
Yeah, well, I mean, and not necessarily like people, it could be about something, like I have a strong feeling about something, but if it's like a program or something, like I haven't bought a ton of programs, but
Sure.
I mean, I'm a very like logical, think it to death kind of person.
Okay.
But it'll also be like, all right, does this feel good? And it'll be like, why does it feel good? Why do I want to do this? And then I'll think about it. But yeah, so I know that's not an example, but that's what I got right now.
Well, there's no right or wrong here. We're just looking at what your experience has been. And I think the point's made, in a sense, even if you're a very logical person like yourself, like you are, there's still a part of it that there's an emotion there. You know, your buying process is logical, but when you really decide and say yes to something, there has to be an emotional component to it. We know on our conversations, we want to get the people saying yes, because there's an emotional charge to yes. And like, can you imagine your life after this experience? Yes. Like, this emotion. Can you imagine getting the support you need from the people on these teams that will be caring for you and providing value? Yes. Like, I need that. So we are stirring these emotional reactions, not in some manipulative way, but just understanding people's deciding process. People have biases. We want to act consistently with, who we think we are. And we can utilize that to influence. It's not about like, oh, we want to manipulate people, but we just want to understand humans. Humans are emotional beings, and we can influence those emotional beings with our interactions. We can have positive interactions with people. They can feel trust and warmth and care, and like that we actually are not just trying to sell them something, that we actually care. And that will have a massive influence on their deciding process. Before we skip slides, any questions that's just a little bit unclear, anything that just needs a little bit of clarity on these 3 columns, or are we feeling pretty good on it?
Brandon, I'd love to just add to that,
please.
is that, you know, obviously everything that we're talking about here can be used for good and can be used for not such good. And you can, you know, people can use it to manipulate, and they do.
Mm-hmm.
The difference between it is the difference between being authentic and heart-centered and being there for that human being that is felt in that conversation versus one that it absolutely does not exist. The energy does not exist there. The authentic conversation doesn't exist, and the people feel it. And that is a big part of what exactly what you're saying, Brandon. It's, you know, yes, we have the emotional side that has us make those decisions, and there's a bunch of things that we're consciously or unconsciously ticking, and that's one of them. Is this person absolutely here for me? And can I trust this conversation? Can I trust their, you know, their intention of being here? And you know, is this an authentic conversation that they're having with me? Are they genuinely looking out for my greater good? And people feel that without you saying, without you having to say certain things, and whatever you say, what's behind that in energy is felt. So I want everyone, I think everyone here is clear of that, but it's such a big part of it is, you know, when we're in those conversations, is each part of it, even when we're following the process and we're stepping to the next thing, we're doing it for that person and for ourselves to help create the best environment for that person to make a better decision for their life. And if that's our intention, then all of that always is going to show up energetically in that conversation. So yeah, I wanted to share that.
Yeah, beautifully and well said as well. So it's, you know, it's the influence, you know, can be used for good and for bad. And I think that's why I want to, in that meta goal, is ensuring that we have this heart-centeredness. And, you know, I think in the ethos of Enspiral is that, you know, we are conscious, you know, entrepreneurs, that we're heart-centered, that we're making a positive impact on the world, and that, you know, we care. And I believe that is consistent and true for each person on this training, that when you get on a phone call with a real human being, you actually care for that person. And regardless of the outcome, you want to be of greatest service as possible. Now, where we follow the sales process and we understand these human influence frameworks, we can increase the probability of getting the outcome. But it's like John said to me, it's not when we first started learning him with him 6 years ago, you know, I'm committed to service, but I'm not attached to outcomes. So we want to do things to increase the chance of positive outcomes, of course, but we don't get so attached to it. And we also are, you know, committed to service from our heart each step in each of the sales steps. So that's going to be so important as far as like the culture that we create here, and that you bring on the phone, right? This is the big, you know, cultural values that we have here, is this heart-centeredness, is commitment to service. And as John said, people feel it. You know, it's maybe, John, you've maybe had a few more investments in programs than some of us have had, because I know you've invested in coaching and you've invested in different type of programs that you've attended and stuff. How much of that was factored into your decision process?
Well, for me, it's always about the people. I do not invest in something that I don't trust the person on the other side. It's pretty simple for me. That's the number one thing. Can I trust this person? Is this person authentic? You know, is it what they're saying right here on stage actually how they're living? And that is one of my things that I do as part of, the logical side. I go and find out, or I do some research, or I spend time with that person before I invest, in their programs. 90% of the programs and the people I've picked up as mentors, I've known for years before. And then I know who they are, and I go, okay, I'm ready. I'm not one who jumps straight into a brand new person who I've just heard about, or something like that, or especially around mentorship or something, going on a training program that's a emotional, spiritual journey. I absolutely take the time before I do that.
Beautiful. And I think as I've seen as well, it's all about relationships. And we've seen this with Mia, who is a master at, cultivating long-term relationships and connections with people, and they're adding on WhatsApp, or, they're in these kind of chats or whatever. It's like, if you took each lead as an approach it relationally, like, okay, I want the quality of this relationship I want them to feel my genuine care, and I want to create an authentic connection. And even if they don't get the deal at the time, which I'll do everything in my power to increase the probability of a good outcome, but even if, I know that I've had deals come back to me months later saying now is a better time, but I just like dealing with you so much, and I had such a good experience on the phone call that I'm now ready to buy. So, I went through a sales process, but because of the emotional connection that they had when they were ready to decide and buy, they came back to me because of the relationship we've created. So it's all, these three processes are all interrelated, but the greatest area we have to influence is in their decision process. And because we want to deal with people we like. So if they like you, more likely they're going to buy from you. And that's just human psychology. That's just human behavior. Okay, so I don't want to spend too much time on this just for the sake of time, but I just want to look at why people would fail to follow these sales processes. And we talked about that a little bit in the beginning, is, examples of when we've actually used the sales steps, and examples of when we didn't, and what those both outcomes felt like. And just to get some clearer language around it, one of the reasons why we don't follow sales steps that, we train people on, is that you get on the call. I don't know if you've ever, oh God, I'm going to make a call. Here we go. Okay. Manage my emotions. Here we go. You get on the call. It doesn't quite go right. And then it starts spinning out of control a bit. And then, fear kicks in, or there's some, maybe, I know the sales cycle, there might be some over eagerness. Maybe you've had a few no's in a row and you really want this deal to be a yes. So you're over eager, right? So you're like, let's just make it, we got to make this happen. And then people feel that, right? And then they pull back, right? So it's just human emotion. If you're over eager, like if I'm in your face, you're like, whoa, hold on. And then you get one of these pushbacks, right? Versus if I'm asking questions and I'm inviting the connection through my questions, then I'm drawing them into me, right? So, it's hard to share times when we've been insecure or doubted and stuff like that. But does anyone have the courage to share a time when they let a disruptive emotion kind of derail a sales conversation? I know that's not like the most glamorous thing to share here. But does anyone have an example where they let impatience or anger or anything come up during the sales conversation and it just really went bad? I mean, we can learn from our mistakes too. That's John's got his hand up, and we can share a few of them, because I think it's important to share when things didn't go well, because that's just life. I've had lots of sales conversations go off the rails. So, John, what's you have something you can share with us, an experience?
Well, I'm gonna share this is an experience about somebody else that you and I were both present to. and it was a conversation where the sales guy came in and he was irritated and upset, and he was like, really like in the masculine, like, we're gonna make some sales today, and just yeah. And I remember everyone who was sitting around the different desks, and like we're kind of like looking at each other, going, we just knew it. This is not going to go right. and he got into a conversation with somebody, and through the conversation, I can't exactly remember exactly what was going on, but at one stage, he almost was shouting at the person down the phone. Yeah. I'm going, all right, dude, out, go for a walk, go do what you need to go do. And of course, he didn't get the sale for sure.
No, he did not.
The person ended up complaining because she felt like she felt like they were being abused, which was exactly what happens when we go in with that. So of course I have my own story, but I thought I'd authentically share about somebody else's story.
Yeah. You were nice enough not to name names for the recording, so that's good. But I guess we can all relate to that, where, or at least I can, where I have let frustration maybe come up, or where I had, and even hope can be a disruptive emotion, meaning you're so hopeful for the deal, you call them, and if they're giving you any objections or kickback, your kind of emotions take a dive. You're like, what? I thought this was a deal. Like, what do you mean you're backing out? And then all of a sudden, it's you've engaged this fight or flight response, right? This fear, and then you're not operating from a centered position at all. You've allowed emotions to hijack the conversation. You are now operating in a fight or flight response, and you're not thinking clearly. And you're definitely not going to be able to turn around whatever objection that person has. And you're not even seeing that objection for what it is, which is an opportunity to turn it around. So this is so vital, this emotion stuff to sales. And so I know John gave an example of someone else. Does anyone have an example of themselves where they felt, anger come up? Or...
I'm happy to share something. Last year, I feel, somewhere in March or so, when I was in Vienna, and we actually did try to start selling our festival. I was like in this really cold environment in Vienna, and kind of like the whole day was just like really messy, going back and forth with my bags, and like snow and like cold feet, and just like all that really beautiful thing that I'm not experiencing right now. And I was late for the call, and kind of went in a really unnice emotional space in that call. And as you just shared, was really impatient and feeling like, okay, I just want a hot shower and yada, yada, yada. And I said to myself then also afterwards, because obviously it wasn't a deal, that I'm not going to do this anymore, and that it doesn't serve the person. And it is so, like, afterwards it happened that if I was late for any appointment, I just messaged them and said, like, can we postpone it for 15 minutes or for an hour or whatever. And it suited them always, which was incredible. Because it was always for me, shit, like they made the appointment and I'm late and I'm like in the state right now. Okay, I cannot like not do it, but I can. And as you say, and as we know, like really the creator of this reality, and as well just to say like, no, I'm stepping back. Hey, I'm sorry, but right now I'm not like, something came up, and like being really truthful and honest with that, because we're all humans. And like, I'm having cold feet and I want a hot shower, and I'm gonna call you back in 15 minutes. And coming into that conversation completely different, with just like feeling comfy with my tea and just chill, and she or he is like, I get that, like good, and I could still like make some food, and then we have that beautiful conversation for like an hour or something, and make the deal, just sharing. And so beautiful. I can very much relate to that.
Yeah, wonderful. And that's a great lesson for all of us, is if we feel that our emotions are not aligned and ready for the call, we do our best, all our practices we do, exercise, eating well, getting enough rest, doing the things that are, fulfilling to our own souls. So, yeah, like that helps. But if we feel we're just out of balance, we are not centered, in my opinion, if it's not going to, you know, totally derail, you know, the deal, it's better to ask if we can reschedule than to come in with these disruptive emotions. Best case scenario, manage your emotions. Do all the things that are part of your own self-care process so that you are. But if you feel you need to, like Carolina just shared, it would be better to postpone for a few hours, get yourself centered, have a hot tea, and get in your little onesie, and then you're ready to go. So I think, you know, we're going to look into more deeply sales-specific emotional intelligence, and it can be something that we can improve on. How do we, you know, create greater empathy? How do we self-control things? How do we have greater self-awareness? How do we, you know, have better sales drive? These are all things we can learn, but it really starts with, you know, the self-control and managing our emotions. I remember, and I'll just share briefly, like and this is honest. I remember there was a few months in a row where I think I didn't have a great outcomes, and I was a little tight on cash, right? So I'm bringing a little bit of insecurity, a little bit of lack to that conversation. And then, you know, if you have a few leads and a few, maybe like, okay, I got to make the most of these leads. Sometimes you can be pushing deals, you know, that shouldn't be deals. So, you know, they call them low probability deals, right? If they're using all the language that is not buying language and they're not engaged, but you're just like trying to drag a deal up the mountain, you know, you may find that you've wasted a lot of time there. So my own financial insecurity and lack at that time caused me to spend a lot of time and energy on low probability deals, which we want to not do, right? If they're saying, look, I'm broke, I'm really broke, and we're turning around those objections, but they're still, you know, I'm on the dole, I'm on, you know, I have no money and I'm living barely enough to eat, our $7,000 retreat may not be appropriate. And we have to be okay with that. We can't just be so eager for the deal that we're dragging a lifeless body up the mountain, right? So that's something that I've had to experience in my own time, is that you have to give some, you know, a little bit of pressure to a deal to drive it forward, but you can't overly push. And that's an interesting tension point that you have to discover, right? Like there's a cool quote that says, no pressure, no diamonds, right? Like if we don't have pressure in the mountain, you're not going to create these gems. But if you're pushing, you could push too hard that they go away. So we don't get stuck on that. Winging it is something that I shared a little bit. We feel like we can do it better. I don't need a script. I don't need steps. I'm a genius. I'm like an emotional mastermind. I could figure this all out. And, you know, I was that person. I'm like, I hate scripts. I hate steps, all this stuff. Ultimately, you learn through experience that boundaries are good. Guidelines are good. They're not meant to restrict you. They're actually just meant to channel your force, right? Like if I have no boundaries and there's no rules and there's no kind of limits, well, it's hard to really focus and channel our you know, what we want to achieve. So again, these steps are here just to give you some guidelines, and then you can add your own awesomeness to them, right? Like bring your own flavor to every interaction, bring your own awesome self to each conversation. And, you know, this is just a few questions I would ask before a call with any of these people. What do you already know? And luckily, John and Acela, at least for our situation, we've created a funnel that gives us a lot of information. We have some of their, you know, hopes, dreams, fears, health situations. We already know that. And I know in the past, if I have a name and I have their application, I would also maybe Google their business or look at their email. Maybe their email has their business website in it. You know, what do you already know about their person? Maybe see if they're on Facebook. You see them posting pictures of mountain hiking or whatever. You'd be like, I just, happen to see that you're a really active outdoor person. Tell me a little bit about that. Like, tell me how, get them with these open-ended questions to talk about themselves. So what do I already know? And that helps you not ask stupid questions. You're like, you don't want to ask the same question that they've just put into the application, because they want to feel like you've actually taken the time to read the application. And then it says, what do you want to know or learn? So think about that. What kind of things would you like to know? I'll put it in a little bit of a specific context, like what kind of health problems are they incurring? What kind of pain points do they have? What kind of solutions have they tried in the past that, and what was their results with that? And then what's the objective of your call, right? Like each call should be, my objective is to have a great connection, to take people through these sales processes and to influence the decision. And at minimum, I want a micro commitment. I want the next call. I want that next call booked with a time, or I want a clear targeted next step. And that's the final one. I want best case scenario. I want their payment details. I want which program they're going to be attending. And if not, I want to have my next meeting where I'm going to get that in the books. I want that organized. So that's, if you're just winging it and you don't do that stuff, it's going to be hard. Luckily for us, because we're sort of this, smaller, marketing and sales agency, we don't have so much complexity to our deals, as far as follow these sales steps, and this and that. In bigger corporations, you'll see that there's, tremendous complexity, and that can actually be an issue. And then finally, no sales process. We have a sales process, and maybe we haven't communicated it as clearly in the past, but I think that's going to be a new standard. Is we have a sales process. It's simple enough that everyone should be able to follow it.